Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com. Today we'll make a custom plastic QR code for TikTok. So I realize this is hard to see. It's completely transparent. It won't be for long because the customer will be using spray paint, then they'll be able to see it very clearly. But in this case here, it's Mylar, not polycarbonate. And you can tell the difference right away with the laser because you'll notice that the burning here, if I get the focus to work, is sort of like a brown blackish. And if it was polycarbonate, it would be a very strong yellowish. And for this application here, where the customer is basically just putting this on the wall, or they're putting it on the ceiling or the floor, wherever, and then spray painting it, polycarbonate or Mylar, both I consider total overkill for this application here. We just have a lot of it in the shop because we do more industrial sort of work generally. And because of that, we have, the really good material that I prefer to use for even sort of consumer sort of applications, if I can put it that way. Now the nice thing about polycarbonate or Mylar is that yes, it is transparent. So if you're working off a jig to initially start your positioning and all that kind of stuff, you can actually see exactly where it is and you can definitely tell what it looks like. Now through the reflection you'll sort of see the QR code. And again, because it's transparent, it's very hard to see. But this gives you an idea of the clarity and the sharpness that you get with the laser. So the bright light you see there isn't actually the laser, it's the reaction of the laser to the smoke and basically the vaporization of the material that you see there. And the extra flash that you see, that's generally when I'm hitting actually the grid table underneath. Now I don't really put a space between them because it doesn't really matter for this application. I'm making a stencil, and the first time you spray paint this, you won't see any more smoke or anything else on the stencil. It's just for the initial placement. It's nice to have something to organize, to be able to see through it so you know exactly where you're going, and then from there make a quick jig if you're making thousands of these on different materials, and then go ahead and spray paint all you want. The reason why I prefer to use plastic like this, either it's Mylar or polycarbonate over, let's say, plywood or even paper, is the durability. The nice thing about plastic is that it's relatively easy to clean. If you use a water-based paint, all you do is put this thing in water, spray it a little bit, not with too much pressure, because again, remember this thing is full of holes, so you don't want to sort of cause some bending in it. It doesn't matter if it's Mylar or polycarbonate, they both sort of bend at this thickness. Plywood starts to bend after time. It starts to grab humidity. Same thing with paper, same thing with cardboard, same thing with just about every other material I could think of other than metals, of course, which would cost a lot more to do this with. And the other nice thing about using Mylar or polycarbonate is the lightweight. This literally weighs nothing. When I ship it, I'm basically shipping air. I think the cardboard that I use on the top and the bottom of this, when I ship it, just so it doesn't get too damaged during the shipping process, that weighs more than the stencil itself. So it's very easy to toss around. It's very easy also to store. You can roll it up. Again, that depends on the distribution of the QR code cutting, but you have tons of options when it comes to using this material. That's why we use it not just for this application here, but we also use it for wineries and other sort of stencil applications. So let's say you had an application where you need to do a couple of thousand spray paints or that kind of stuff. There's a few ways around that. One is to make more than one stencil, because this is totally fine. Again, it will last a very long time. You can clean it off, no issue. But if you start to get into having more people involved with spray painting, what ends up happening is people start sort of bending and ripping, all that kind of stuff. And what you can end up happening is not breaking the stencil itself, but you can have overspray and underspray. So overspray is above the material, underspray is underneath. So after a while, you have just such a huge buildup of paint that it might start causing some issues. And for that application there, generally you want to go as large as you can, QR code and text-wise. And we can actually make them out of mild steel or stainless steel. And the nice thing about that is it can use a pressure washer on it, and it'll clean completely right up, and you won't have to worry about like this stuff here. So again, this is going to be flattish. So you have some small spots here, again, because it is a QR code. But if this was stainless steel or mild steel, this would not budge whatsoever. So that's the advantage of it. The other advantage of using metal is that when you lay it flat on something, it's flat. This here, you can tell there's a little bit of give to it. So you have to be a little bit more careful as for positioning and what you're doing with it. So you already have the weight. Let's say you're doing this on paper. You just put, if you had the metal, you put it around the paper, it's flat on the paper. In this case here, you got to put it on the paper, you might have to just tape the corners down, making sure it's down, and then you spray paint it. So again, just a few little things application-wise, production-wise that you might have to contend with. Again, we can make these things out of literally anything. Plywood, you want them out of rubber, you want them out of Formica, whatever, not a problem. So looking for a custom QR code stencils, contact me at CNCKing.com. We'll make it for you and ship it right to your door.